Hey everyone, welcome back. Today I wanted to talk with you a little bit about the process that I went through to set up my study schedule and to try and figure out how long it was going to take me to get through my real estate classes for Texas. A little bit of history about this. So there are a lot of classes you have to take. It's over 900 hours of classes. They're counting each class as about 30 hours. The good news for me is that my undergraduate degree counts for about 630 of them. So that leaves me about 270 hours of classes that I have to take. So I found an online company that I can take my classes through. It has been a very long time since college. And while my master's degree, I did work full-time and go to school pretty much full-time. I didn't have to sit and schedule out my online classes. I know this is something a lot of people are more familiar with recently with COVID and a lot of things being done online. But if anybody is like me and has not been taking classes in many, many, many years, has not done the online class thing, and is struggling to figure out how long this is going to take me, I wanted to kind of walk you through the process of how I went about this. So the first thing I did was actually go online and look at each one of my classes, and I printed out the table of contents. Now these vary anywhere from 14 sections, this one is 11, that one is 17, that one's 17, that one's 15. So on average, they're about 14 sessions each. I did find out as you kind of went along, Unit 1 is always the same. It's like how to take this class. Where do you take your final exams? It's literally the same thing. So the first section didn't count. I also figured out section 14, the wrap-up, was basically nothing also. So I could, for both of those, just ignore them. I think I kind of viewed the first class I took as a trial. I didn't know how long things were going to take. As you can see, each one of these sections varies from 1 unit inside of it to 5, and some of these are even 6 or 7. So I can't always even say, oh, these are all the same length. I did finally figure out, because even inside of these 5, there's more individual breakdowns. So sometimes the 5 have an additional 3. I mean, it's kind of crazy, to be honest with you. I viewed my first class as a trial, trying to figure out how long is a section going to take me to complete, and how long is it going to take me to get through everything? How am I going to study? Because it has been a very long time since I have studied. So I encourage you, if you're starting to do this for the first time, use one of your classes, the very first one, as just a trial. Figure out kind of how things work, how you best study. I discovered that the class I was taking, you have something you can print and read, but it also has exercises you can go through, and then you basically test yourself as you go. I discovered the ones that I read and then skipped straight ahead to these section and unit exams were not the ones that I remembered. So I found for myself it was best for me to actually go through each of the individual pages, click through, and do the self-testing that they recommend that you do. As a part of this, and I will link a playlist down below, I realized I haven't studied in a very long time. And I always did really well in school, but it's been a while. I have not exercised that studying muscle in a very long time. So I actually went, Ali Abdal has some videos that he's done on studying, and they actually recommend the self-test method as studying, and that's the best way to retain things. I actually am also learning French through Duolingo, and I realized as I was watching his videos that's exactly how Duolingo works. So you are constantly being tested in various ways on words, on conjugating verbs, And periodically, things you've already completed, they break. And so you have to go back and review them again to basically polish them up. Which is exactly how I'm learning and how I'm actually remembering and able to read French now, which is really strange to me because French was not a language I learned in high school or college. So I realized that is the best way for me to learn. So I am actually creating study guides as I go along. So what I discovered as I worked my way through this first entire class is that I, on average, can get through a section, no matter how long it is, in about an hour and a half. So I encourage you to time yourself, keep track of how long it takes you to get through things, and then that should give you an idea going forward about how long it should take you to get through things. So I discovered that going through here. So what I was able to do then, and if you've watched any of my videos recently, you'll see that I am time blocking, and it kind of depends on the week. But I usually can get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, up to 9. I think that's the most I can do in a week. I can usually get through about 9 sessions. On average, it's about 7 because I usually have meetings either Thursday or Friday also. And sometimes I'll have something here. So it usually ends up being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's about where I am. So if I have essentially 12 sessions to finish a class, I can get through a class in 2 weeks. So you can start to figure out how long does it take me, where can I block off time in those blocks of time that I need to get through a session, and then you can start to plan out, okay, how long is it going to take me to get through a class? So what I actually ended up doing was just putting session 1 through however many for each class inside of OmniFocus. And then I was assigning due dates because I can look ahead at my schedule on my Google Calendar and see, okay, when do I have meetings? When will I be available? And then I know to allow myself about a day to study. And then it's usually a 2-hour block-ish to take my final exam. So with that, I've been able to figure out, okay, I need, I can get through these about every 2 weeks. I have some holidays, I have some meetings, I have some travel, but I should be able to be finished by Thanksgiving. So obviously things are kind of in flux, and as something comes up, I may end up doing some study sessions on the weekend just to get myself a little bit ahead. But I'm trying to limit myself to weekdays so that I'm not overloading myself. The other thing that I'm doing is I am copying down the self-test questions they have and the answers, because they're all multiple choice, into Obsidian. You can use a Word doc, Evernote, anything like that. Basically, you just need something you can copy and paste into. And then that way, as I discovered, I can go back and read through that. When I went to study for my first final exam, I actually went through all the sessions individually, copied and pasted as I went. That took me an entire day. Just because I wasn't redoing all the material, I was just looking for the self-quiz questions so that I could create like my own study guide. So now I'm doing that as I go along, so I won't have to go through everything again in order to study. I can just go back and brush up on the things I don't remember or that I'm not getting correct. I also have been using flashcard software. I think it's Anki. They have an app. They also have a website. But I'm using that for things I just flat out have to memorize, like the number of feet in a mile. And you would think I would know that. I don't. But, I'm learning it. The number of feet in an acre. How many acres in a section? In real estate, we do have, in sales, to do some math type problems where you just have to remember how many acres in hectare. Those are things I just flat out have to memorize. So periodically I go back and I quiz myself or test myself on that information just to make sure that I get it just drilled into my brain. Because there are some things I can reason through, and that I like understand so I can think through logically, but there are other things I just have to memorize. So hopefully that gives you an idea of a little bit about how I have kind of eased myself back into studying, how I have been able to go through and figure out how long this is going to take me so I can set up a timeline for myself. And it also gives me a chance to see, am I falling behind? Am I getting a little bit ahead? You know, how quickly am I going to get through all of this? So I definitely encourage you, if you're starting to take classes, watch some videos on studying techniques, figure out kind of what works best for you, because studies have shown that just reading your textbook or reading your notes is actually not the best way to retain information long term. And I'm having to keep this in mind. I'm learning this because I then have to go take a broker's exam. So I can't just short-term cram this into my head and then forget about it. I'm going to have to, November, December, take a test on all of this information. I am actually trying to learn and not just, you know, shove it in a short-term memory long enough to pass a final exam. Hopefully that's helpful. If you have any questions, please leave it down below. I'm happy to answer, or if it's faster or easier for me to film another video to answer those questions, I'm happy to do that. I was looking for a video like this myself when I was first starting this process. Another quick tip, if you are trying to do any sort of a licensing process, sometimes the state's licensing page is not the most clear. So I found that if I went to a continuing education website, the sites that actually offer these classes where their goal is to help you get the license, their information is a lot easier to understand. Because I read the Texas Real Estate Commission's website several times and I was just like, what? I don't understand. But it wasn't until I went to, you know, the CE shop and a couple of other places that it was like, okay, I understand now what it is that I need to do. So I encourage you, if you're having problems figuring out what are the exact steps you need to do, to also check into some of these other companies where their job is to help you get the education you need in order to pass those license exams. And I think that probably goes for any state and probably most licenses as well. I thank you for watching. My normal content is actually more planner related, but this was tangentially planner related because this is kind of how I got to the point where I'm time blocking out my studying time. I know sometimes it's like, well, how do you decide where you're time blocking? Well, I know when I want to finish, and I know about how long it takes me to get through a section. So that's kind of how I determined the length of time. So if you enjoy planner content, feel free to subscribe. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. Bye.